Back. In this video, we're going to talk about making your own life easier by either extending functionality that already exists in the MOO or adding new functionality to make your, again, life easier. So one thing you saw me doing a lot in past videos was typing at props, and then the MOO telling me that I don't understand that, which is the default response when the MOO does not know how to process whatever you're trying to do. So instead, you saw me typing properties and then an object number, right? You could also do verbs and an object number, right? But it's a lot easier to type at props than it is to type properties, right? So let's try and create a verb called at props. The other thing that you might notice is that when I type at kids, I can type at kids number 2, and I can type at kids me, and I can type at kids wizard, I can type at kids test, right? Whereas if I tried to do properties test, I'm going to get a trace back. That's because at kids, as you can see right here, uses player myMatchObject and passes the direct object string that you pass or that you call the verb with. So you'll see that number 4 at kids defines any none none, which means that the direct object string is what's going to get stored. Whatever you pass in is going to get stored in the direct object string. So player myMatchObject is going to try and match objects on your person in your inventory, and then objects in the current room, and then also if you provide something by object number. So let's copy at kids and modify it to suit our needs. So we're going to use at copy number 4 at kids to number 4 at properties. Now keep in mind, number 4 is not me. It's one of my parents, the builder class. So that means that this verb is going to be available not only to me, but to other people in that object hierarchy. Sorry for the Slack messages. So let's do this copy. And you'll also notice that I'm going to add a star here. This is a wildcard, which means, actually, yeah. So it's going to match anything at no, can't do that. It's going to have to just be at props. Anyway, a wildcard could be used to complete wildcard matching. So if you wanted to have at I star, you could have at inventory, at INV, etc. Be really careful with wildcards because it can have unintended consequences. Don't ever add a verb that's just wildcard star if you can help it, because it means that every single possible combination of commands that could be typed will be routed to that verb. So number 4 colon at props, and we're going to say any none none. Well, actually, it'll just use whatever at kids is, so it's going to copy the args from at kids, so we'll just copy it like that. So that code has been set, and we can edit number 4 at props. So keep in mind, what we want to do is basically mimic what comes from at properties, right? So we're going to do a couple things. So at kids is going to turn into at props, list the properties of an object. This is handy for seeing blah, blah, blah. We don't need that. List the properties of an object. So thing is going to equal player myMatchObject. Then we're going to check if this is or is not a failed match. A failed match is going to be number -3. It's a special object that's basically failed match. So we're going to say thing equals player myMatchObject, pass the direct object string. If it can't find a match, it will return hashtag -3 or number -3 or pound -3. I happen to say number. Sorry if that bothers you. If it is not a failed match, it will continue on here. So I am okay with this for now. I know that in the past videos I've said that we should return early, return often. Maybe we'll refactor this when we're done. So what we really want is to kind of get rid of all this stuff, right, for the most part, and change it to properties. So we'll change this to props, and we will do properties thing. If props, we will notify this thing has length props. We'll see what happens when we just do all this, and then we'll do toString. We want to do names of kids. We want to show the properties. So you'll notice that this is also using notify as opposed to tell. I'm going to use tell lines, which I believe is defined. List me tell lines. What tell lines is going to do is take a list and basically for each over it and tell each thing in the list. So we're going to do tell lines props, and if there is no property, if there are no properties, we'll say this thing has no props. So let's just, there's definitely improvements that can be made here, but let's see what happens. So if I do @prompts_me, wizard2 has no props. If I do @prompts number 57, I see these properties, right? Now how could we improve this? Well, properties are denoted by a period, right? So wouldn't it be nice if we, instead of using tell lines, did in fact loop over everything and maybe appended a period on there? I think it would be. So for prop in props, player tell dot plus prop and 4. So this is, we're saying for every prop and property, tell the player dot plus prop. So let's try it again. Generic wizard has 9 props. Proper 9. All right, so now our English should be correct. Has 9 properties, and we see that they are defined like that. Now, it'd be nice if we had a bit more information about these properties. We could try to display what the value of the property is, but some properties are really long, and we probably don't want to do that. But maybe displaying the owner of the property and the maybe the permissions. So let's look at what @show does. So we do @show me.newtMessage, and we get the owner, the permissions, and the value. Let's look at how that works. So @list number 2 @show. Keep in mind, I don't actually define number 2 as a verb on, or @show as a verb on me, but using @list, it's smart enough to figure out which one does. All right, so it's using parse prop reference on code utils. So let's do help parse prop ref. Parses string as a MOO code property reference, returning object string, property name string. Okay, that's not exactly what we want. Code utils show property. So again, I don't know all of these things. So I'm digging through the code to try to track down how it's showing these properties. So looks like it calls show property on code utils. So let's look at what that does. This takes an object and a property name as arguments. If property name and this dot built-in props, it does something else. Property, so it's calling property info. So it looks like property info is where we're getting the guts of who owns the property and what the permissions are. So let's check out help on property info. So property info, you provide an object and a string with the property name, and it provides back a list. So let's try that. Property info, number 57, prompts number 57. Let's do newt victim message. When we get back, it's owned by number 2, and it's RC. So let's add that in. So plus, we'll say it's going to be, well, first let's set prop info equals property info thing and prop, right? So now we'll have the property info as a list, except it's really just number 2. It's really owner and let's see, owner and permissions. So let's do a scattering. Let's say owner perms equals property info. We know that it's always going to return this list of 2 items. So we're going to set each 2 items like that. That way we can do this owner and do let's just see how we can format it. Owner plus perms plus. All right, let's see if this works. So we're going to show the dot prop, and then in parentheses we'll show the owner and the permissions. At props number 57. Type mismatch on line 9. I believe that's because we're trying to concatenate a string. Let's to literal it. Can't concatenate a string and an object. So we see newt victim messages owned by number 2 and plus RX, right? Now say we want to go a step further and decide if it's clear or not. We could do yet another thing like this. And we're going to have to do this in parentheses. Is clear property. We'll pass the owner. No, not the owner. The thing. And the prop is clear property. And we'll say if it's clear, clear. Otherwise, not clear. And I didn't add a thing on the end. So now, very, very easily, we can see which properties are not clear. But here's the thing. It's always going to show not clear. We tried to be clever, but I guarantee it's impossible for us to show not clear, or to show clear, right? Because if it was clear, it wouldn't be defined, right? Like if I do @set me.newt victim message to ASDF 11111, and I @props me, I still don't have any props because it's defined on my parent, right? So our cleverness in trying to display whether the property was clear or not will just not work. We'll just always see not clear. We can just assume that it's not clear because we're seeing it as a property. Again, properties defined on children will not show up in the properties, in the return value of properties. There are some verbs on maybe object utils or maybe code utils that will get the properties of a user or properties of an object, including the children's properties. So that's just something to consider. You could make this extensible in a way that it would show children properties as well. Oh, startup disk is almost full. One way to do this, if you want to see everything, would be to @show number 2. So you're going to show the whole object. So first you'll see my parent, my location, who owns me, any flags. I've got the player, programmer, wizard flag, or flags, and then all these different properties that we haven't seen at all, right? Tons of them. All these properties are defined on me, right? Including my newt victim message here, and debugging enabled, which we set on the number 58 object. So @show is a great way to see all properties and their values. It can be really spammy though, just putting it out there. So that's a great way to extend the functionality of the MOO to make our lives easier. You can edit any of these verbs. This is your core now. You can edit any of it. So I recommend you do that. Customize it. This is yours. Make it your own. See you in the next video.